On today's episode of Kilts and Culture with USA Kilts, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Jamesie from the band Albannach.
Yoo-hoo! Sounded like Mrs. Doubtfire.
Hello!
Not Jamesie from Alban. Mrs. Doubtfire. Toodle pips.
The history of the Gallic lands is one of struggle, punctuated by moments of sheer brilliance.
Tartan is Scotland's gift to the world, and it is your personal heritage story. Howdy, boys and girls. Welcome to Kilts and Culture. I am Rocky. This is not Eric. This is the one, the only, Jamesie Johnston from the band Albannach. Thank you for joining us.
My absolute pleasure to be here, sir. At last.
Yes.
How many attempts have we had?
Long in the making. There was a show, was it 2022, where my son had COVID and you were supposed to be here, and yeah, and then he ended up not coming because he didn't want it. He thought I might be infected, which luckily I ended up not being. But yeah, so attempt number 2 or 3 or something like that. Yes. Anyway, boys and girls, if you've never heard of Albannach, what are you doing? What rock have you been under? This is James Johnston from the band Albannach. He's from, are you from Glasgow or outside of Glasgow?
Outside, if we want to be technical about it, we're 12 miles northwest of it in a small suburb called Bearsden.
Okay.
And when I usually say Bearsden to people, Rocky, if I'm on the circuit or whatnot, they go, ooh, posh. Yeah, mum and dad had money. I don't have money.
I fully understand. Yes. All right. Boys and girls, load in any questions you have, Kilts or Culture related. We are here but your humble servants to answer whatever questions you have, whether it's about hiking. James is an avid hiker and leads tours over in Scotland. So hiking questions are fair game. Anything culture related, anything kilt related. He normally wears a great kilt. Today he's looking very posh though. Got his kilt on, his vest on, dress shirt. I don't even know you.
This doesn't happen much, folks. Enjoy this vista.
He's got a wedding to go to right after this.
A job interview.
You're hired. All right, Eric, so what do we got there out in the interwebs / from our preloaded questions?
Well, hi there, Rocky. We're still collecting questions from the stream, so I'm going to give you one that we had written down earlier from David Ludwig. And he asked, how did Jamesie get started wearing the belted plaid? Has he ever worn a modern little kilt? And if so, how does he find it compares to its larger cousin? Differences between
what a
great
wonderful
kilt
question.
Yeah, what's your origin story? What drew you to... I'm going to expand that. What drew you to wanting to do what you do for a living / got you into the culture and the history and the heritage?
Great question. Rocky, it was a band called the Corries.
Yep.
Silence.
Yep.
Nobody knows who the Corries are. Do you know?
Flower Scotland?
They're a boy.
Get out of here.
I started listening to the Corries, and it kind of tied in with the same time that I was starting to get into hill walking and exploring, the countryside and nature. And along with that, you start getting into the old tales of Scotland. And I thought, well, if I want to go out walking in Scotland, I want to look the part. And I came across the Great Kilt, and I thought, I'll wear that, and I'll go out and kid on I'm William Wallace, And that's basically, my dad's friends used to say, hey, Jimmy, how's that boy of yours? Does he still think he's William Wallace? I think I was a bit of a laughing stock in the village, I do believe. But that's how it happened. And then the massive thing happened in Scotland. Seismic. Braveheart came out. Seismic. Just everyone and your granny wanted to be Scottish. So I thought, here, I'm ahead of the game. I'm already wearing...
You've already got the kit.
Yeah, I'm already there. And I was wearing, this is fantastic, I was wearing a leather breastplate that I'd made myself.
Not a bra or a brassiere.
No. I can see the cogs turning in your head. And you know what it was? It was an old leather briefcase, and I attacked it with a set of scissors, and then I took...
Psycho.
I did. And then I took the buckles and I made them on the side there, and I took an old brass door knocker and I put it on the front, and it just happened to be a lion, a brass lion's face there. And I thought I looked epic.
Yeah.
You know, Russell Crowe from
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Gladiator, eat your heart out. And I would wear my double-belted plaid and I would disappear into the woods and whatnot and just do my thing. Kind of like as Braveheart was exploding. So, yeah, that was my first...
Foray, entry.
That was the first foray into it. And then I discovered what I would call the dress kilt. And you look fantastic when you wear this, so
Yeah.
it's always good to put it on.
Nice. No, well, you cut a dashing figure in both of them, sir.
Lovely, thank
Yes,
you.
indeed. My brown nosing begins.
Lovely.
Yes. Excellent. Eric.
So, Tamora, I am more than my ET, asks, I don't think I'm in shape enough to keep up with Jamesie on his guided tours of Scotland. Just how strenuous are they?
Do you need a Segway? Or one of those little
Oh my
roller
gosh.
things?
Here's a wee story about Segway. You just flipped my mind into something there. I'm in the car park of a Super 8 motel, and this is like my first ever tour in America. So to me, a Super 8 motel is absolutely fantastic. I'm none the wiser. I'm from Glasgow, or Bearsden. And I meet this guy, and I've got a few drinks in me, and this big white truck, we call them lorries.
Yeah.
Now it's 18-wheelers. People tractor trailers, and the door comes down, and this thing comes whizzing out the back. And he's going up and down the car park, and me and Donnie and whatnot stand there with our cargo, our beers, cans of beer, and we're like, what's going on here? And we got talking to him, and he was the guy that invented the Segway, and he was doing a tour to try and sell the thing. And there's us idiots in this car park full of whatever beer we were on. We were probably on the Budweiser or something, or the Millers, not Miller Lite, that's a cocktail. We were on the Miller Highs or whatever, because you couldn't get tenants. And we ended up having a shot on the Segway before it ever became the Segway.
Nice.
You know? So, to answer your question, no Segways, and certainly no drunk Segway riding.
Fair.
when you're on my tours. I would say, yes, you have to have a fairly decent level of fitness to go hill walking in Scotland. I would definitely say that. And as I like to say to people, a mile in Scotland is very different from a mile in your country park or your backyard.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
tree roots, boulders, steep elevation, all that kind of stuff, So if you do the homework before you come out to Scotland, then your walking holiday or vacation will be a lot more enjoyable. You'll be able to do it instead of coming out there and just being in pain. Because trust me, I've had that happen, with people come out and 2 days into their hard-earned holiday, it's game's a bogey, they've got blisters the size of my forehead, which is huge, on their feet, and that's it, as the hiking guide, it's over,
anytime you're going hiking, like a proper hike, not just a little jaunt in the woods, but a multi-day hike with someone like this who's a lot more experienced, I would say make sure you're in reasonable physical condition and maybe do some warm-up hikes, the weeks leading up to it, and make sure you're not bringing a fresh pair of shoes or something like that you're going to end up getting blisters. Break them in a little bit, get out there and make sure that you're ready for what's actually going to happen. Then just, it's going to be fun. Jamesie will carry me on his back. It'll be a good time.
Jamesie doesn't get paid enough for I suppose I could.
Jamesie's
charge a
piggyback
wee
rides.
bit more. Jamesie's piggyback rides of Scotland. Ping.
A whole new marketing plan for you. I got this.
I like it, but what you're touching on there is a great. It has to be said, because you can't go Netflix to the West Highland Way in Scotland. You just can't do it, and people make that mistake, and don't. You're paying big money. This might be a holiday of a lifetime for you or something. So
Yeah.
put the homework in.
Are there other tours that'll do like day hikes between things? Not necessarily yours. You have a great tour, obviously, but are there other people that do like, a bus tour and then you take a hike up this one mountain and back down, then you stay at a bed and breakfast and da da da? Or
Well, some of the tours that I offer along with my partner there, we base ourselves in, say, one hotel, and then I'll take you out and give you different little flavours of the Isle of Skye, for
Okay.
say. That's where I'll take you. And I'll take you out on little day hikes. Some of the hikes now that I'm doing, it can be 5 hikes, and I'll give you a day off so that you can go out and just explore yourself without, battering your body. But are there other tour companies out there? Scotland's crammed full of them.
oh yeah.
know.
I for some reason I thought your tours were more like we're going to start in Fort William and work our way all the way down to Glasgow. And
Aye, that's if you're doing a set long trail, if you're doing, West Highland Way, the Southern Upland Way, the Rob Roy Way, if you're doing something like that, then you're on a fixed trail.
Yeah.
But I also offer, like down there in the Borders, which for me is one of the most beautiful places in Scotland, is we'll just give you day hikes. And
Yeah.
you're going to come back to base every night. And I just
Yeah.
want to get you a taste of different areas.
do you ever have people who do a day hike or do 2 day hikes and realize like I can't hack this, I need a day off, and then take a third day off and stay at the hotel while the rest of your group goes out? Or
Absolutely. I'm not there to crack a whip at your arse as you're walking. I'm not there to bang your door at 9 o'clock in the morning and demand that you come out. This is your holiday. It's your vacation. If you want to take a day off and go and do your own thing and whatnot, then absolutely.
Okay.
Nice. I'm not strict that way with it.
Yeah.
I'm there to make sure you're having a good time.
yeah.
know.
How many people go roughly? Like on
Aye.
one of your trips? Is like a dozen? Is it 50? Is it 6?
If I'm doing a hiking tour, I'm max at 14.
Okay.
That's me get 14 clients out on the hill. That's enough. That's more than enough. I can bring that down to 6. Sometimes it's 6 I've got out there. I much prefer that myself. I can be a lot more personable with you, the clients. We can really get to know each other a lot better. But max them out at 14.
Okay. Yeah, that seems about
And
right.
that's the hiking
Yeah.
tours. Obviously, the coach tours, the historical coach tours, we're up there at, 40, 48 people
Okay.
on a big touring coach.
Nice. Very good. All right, Eric, what else do we got out there?
We got a few things. I'm going to springboard off of the fact that you guys are talking about hiking, though. We had Desiree McAndrew asking, what is Jamesie's favorite kilt or kilt style for long hikes? And Chuck Marks also chimed in, similar question, what brands of modern hiking gear do you recommend for the hiking trips across Scotland? They're both planning long range to come out and join you. So
Great questions.
Yeah,
Great questions. You're very educated people that listen to your show.
do our best.
I like it. I've done a good few hikes in the kilt, in the small kilt, if you want to call it that, or just your dress kilt. The first kilt I ever got was from my father, and it was his kilt when he was young, and it's got passed on to me. And I used to call that my drinking kilt. So when I grew up, I had a drinking kilt that I could go out to the pub in, to the Hogmanay parties, maybe go and see the Scotland national team play at Hampden. And then you would have like a dress kilt that was all prim and proper, and you didn't want to get all that messed up, So I would hike in the drinking kilt. And I've done that. I've done the West Highland Way in that a few times. I've done various just little solo jaunts up to Glencoe, up to the Isle of Skye and that. I like it. But I would say to somebody who's never done it before, this is a pro tip, if you think you're going to walk 100 miles in a kilt, regimental, think again. Because within 2 days you're going to have no skin left in your inner thighs. Been there, seen it, done it, wore that t-shirt, paid for the damages,
Have you ever heard of a company called Body Glide?
Yep.
So it's like it's for those out there who haven't heard of it, it's basically a deodorant stick kind of thing, and runners use it for their armpits, for their groin, for the chest, anywhere where you get abrasion or you end up rubbing a bit too much. That's how it started out. There's a couple other companies out there that do it now. So that would be one of my
Works,
pro
yep.
tips.
Works a treat.
Yeah.
I've used such products myself, especially when you're getting into the longer stuff, you know. I mean, if you're just going out there for small hikes, if you're going out there for 5-mile hikes and whatnot, you're all right. But once you start getting into that 15 miles, maybe 20 miles a day, and you're doing it day in, day out, you know, then you're going to start coming across problems. And that's where, you know,
That kind of
products
thing
like
helps.
that come in.
Yeah. Now, do you normally wear a kilt hiking, or are you more, like athletic shorts or performance fabric, that kind of thing? What's your normal kit?
Performance fabric, to put it like that. There's a company in Scotland. See, I like to showcase Scottish things and Scottish product. There's a wonderful company back home called Kilt Outdoors, and I think they are leading the way in outdoor fabric and technology, so I try to champion them as much as I can. I like their stuff, I like how it feels, I like it's got good wear and tear about it. So yeah, if I'm going out in the wilds of Scotland, I'm going up into these mountains, the kilt's not going to be, my first choice at all. It's not going to be my first choice. I want to dress appropriately for the conditions, because you can get caught out quick up there.
I would say if you are going to go hiking and you've decided you really want to wear the kilt, then what I would suggest is either potentially a polyviscose kilt, one that's machine washable, stain resistant, a little bit less expensive. You can beat it up a little bit and throw it in the washer and not worry about it. Second tip that I would probably have would be like a lower yardage kilt, like a 4-yard, 5-yard kilt versus a full 8-yard dress kilt, or
Great advice. Go light.
It's a 5-yard kilt is going to be a little bit more balanced. If you think of 5 yards, you have 1 yard for this apron, 1 yard for the other apron. That's 2 yards, and then you have 3 yards in the pleats in the back. So it's a little bit more balanced, 2 in the front and 3 in the back, versus like a regular 8-yard kilt. You have 2 in the front and 6 in the back. So it's a little bit more weight. Not a lot, but if you're carrying that throughout the day, along with your water, along with your kit, along with everything else, up and down hills and that kind of thing, and jumping off rocks and having to compress your spine as you're carrying all this heavy stuff, I would say a lower yardage kilt will definitely help a bit. So that would be my thought on it.
I think that's great advice. Definitely. The most famous long distance walk in Scotland is
The West Highland Way?
Good man. You
Yeah.
nailed it. The West Highland Way. Everyone knows the West Highland Way. And they reckon there's about 130,000 people try it a year now, with maybe about 80,000 people a year actually completing the full 96 miles. And out of all the places that I wander and hike and climb in Scotland, I would say, if you're on the West Highland Way, you're doing a section of it or whatnot, if you're in Mulgai, which is where it starts, that's where you're going to see the walkers wearing the kilts.
Right.
Because these people come from all over the country, all over Europe, and they want to do the walk, they want to do the famous West Highland Way in the kilt,
Nice. Yeah. Neat. All right. Eric.
Martin McTavish asked, how do you feel about people without any Celtic heritage wearing the kilt?
So, no Celtic heritage, not Scottish, not Irish, not Welsh, none of it. Want to wear the kilt. I know how I feel about it. The people out there probably know how I feel about it as well. What's your take?
Well, who's to say we own the copyright on wearing a kilt? What kind of nonsense is that? That's like somebody coming up to me and saying, "What do you think about other bands playing the bass drum and their pipe and drum music?" I thought,
Fair.
have at it, knock yourself out, have fun.
Yeah.
I don't own that.
Yeah,
You know,
they're
I
not
didn't- I didn't
Albannach, but you're
invent
not them,
that,
yeah.
As long as they're not, blatantly ripping me off, So I would say kind of similar thing. I think if you're going to wear it, power to you. Submerge yourself in the experience, but don't wear it back to front. It would surprise you how many people I see at Celtic festivals and Highland Games who have got a kilt on back to front. You've seen it.
Now, do you correct them when they have it on back to front?
No, I just let people wander on, I just enjoy the spectacle.
Fair.
But I do love seeing people wear their kilts. we do these coach tours in Scotland, and that's a question I'll get quite a lot. Is it okay if I wear my kilt? Absolutely. Wear your kilt. But I'm not Scottish. I just like your music. Doesn't matter. It's all about the experience. It's all about submerging yourself in what we love, this Scotland thing, this Celtic thing, you know. So wear your kilt. It doesn't matter. Just wear it right.
Now, I feel essentially the same way. It's not appropriation, it's appreciation. If you're doing it properly. If you're one of the phrases that we have on the show we use often is, as long as you are a sincere student of the culture, as long as you're not using it in a mocking way, you don't have a "See You Jimmy" hat on, you don't have on the I don't know what like a Prince Charlie tuxedo shirt joking kind of thing, or it's not like a Halloween costume. As long as you're doing it sincerely because you have an affinity for Scotland, you have affinity for Albannach music, or you have an affinity for Ireland, or whatever it is, and it's coming from a sincere place that you want to experience it and just be part of the party, so to speak, then I'm all about it. When we go up to Celtic Classic up in Bethlehem, Celtic Classic has a tight-knit Puerto Rican community. There's a lot of Puerto Rican people up in Bethlehem, Allentown area. And a lot of them come to the festival because it's something fun to do. And they want to experience different cultures. This is America. It's a salad bowl. And, you mix all the ingredients in there and some of the dressing gets on that part and some of the things, it's all mixed together. It's a great, fun way to experience a different culture, even if you're not part of that culture. Like I've gone to other ethnic festivals, whether it's, Puerto Rican Day Parade, German Oktoberfest. It's fun getting into the spirit of the thing and experiencing the thing for what the thing is. And people have asked me before, like when I go to German festivals, would I wear a kilt to a German festival? I went to one the other day and I thought about it for a minute. I'm like, no, but I'm going to wear my checked shirt and my German, Oktoberfest hat because I want to have, that experience there different from a kilt at a Celtic festival. So I think there's room for all of it, and they're both of it and all of it.
What is it they call that? Lederhosen? Is that
Lederhosen or the leather pants? Yeah.
Lederhosen. So if I was going to, and I don't drink anymore, so it's probably out the window, but if I was going to go to the Munich Beer Festival,
that's the one.
You better believe I'm getting the Lederhosen on. I'm getting the outfit on because I'm there to experience that culture. Sign me up for that.
Yeah. Now, it's having been in Germany just before Oktoberfest happened last year. It is freaking right in Munich. It was freaking massive. It's huge. And it's mostly in Germany. It's like Bavaria. It's the southern eastern part that actually wears lederhosen. It's not all of Germany. It's just the southeastern part. But some of those small towns really get into it. Like all the waiters in several of the bars, have them on and that kind of thing. They're in store windows. The thing that I actually thought was coolest, I didn't expect to see it all, but there was certain companies in, was it Munich or was it one of the other cities I was in? But there are like fashion companies having like a modern twist on lederhosen or on the dirndl and women's dresses and women's fashion and things like that, as well as men's. So it's neat watching something that I don't think about because I'm just steeped in the Scottish thing every day, all day. But it's neat going over there and seeing how different ethnicities are bringing their traditional dress forward in the same way that, there's contemporary looking kilts and kilt suits and kilt outfits and things like that. It's not all just stuck in the 1800s and early 1900s.
See, there's me thinking everyone in Germany wore lederhosen.
Yep.
And there's me.
Not quite.
There's me educated in the fact that there's only certain areas.
Yeah.
And so I might look like a right clown if I was just to wander around the whole of Germany wearing...
Ish, in the same way that you would almost feel like a right clown, wandering around the whole of Scotland as a tourist in a kilt. There's definitely a crossover here, a concentric circle overlap, where it's, that's why some people don't, when they go to Scotland, feel a little weird wearing the kilt because I don't want to be seen as that guy in the same way as, wearing lederhosen in Germany. But in certain towns, it's a lot more common. Like you might see a kilt or three up in the Highlands, where down in Lowlands you wouldn't really see it on a daily basis.
No, correct. You wouldn't see it. In fact, I'm just back from the Lowlands. I didn't see one kilt down there. And that was me.
You got to move down there and start wearing kilts?
I'd love to move down there. It is like my favourite place in Scotland.
Nice.
The borders.
So, yes. Long story short. Yes, get out there, wear a kilt.
Absolutely.
Jamesie said it's okay. What else do you need to know?
I can tell you. Because, to springboard off of that, we had two people, Steve Sanders and John Pitzer, both basically asking, well, how do I handle, if I go to Scotland and I decide to wear the kilt, how do I handle the negative comments if I get them? So what would be your best advice for dealing with any kind of a gatekeeper?
F*** off. That's it. There you go.
Alrighty.
That's what I would say. I'd say get a life, go mind your own business.
You give him a two-finger salute.
Yeah, the old two-finger salute. Go get a life. That's what I would say. Don't worry about me, worry about yourself. I'm here because I want to experience your country. I'm not here to make fun of your country. I'm not here to badmouth it. I'm here to experience it. That's what we are. We're tartan, we're the clans, we're the highlands, we're castles, we're the loch. That's what we are. So yeah, embrace it. So to anyone that would have a negative comment, yeah, shut up.
You're gonna get that no matter where you go. There are assholes in every culture.
Oh.
There are great people and there are jerks. You're gonna have both. So when I went to Scotland the first and second time, I wore a kilt on a regular basis over there, and I got, I would say, 90 of the people who commented, which weren't that many in fairness. I would say 80 to 90% were positive, and then one or two errant, kind of like here in the States, one or two errant people just, passing, load of kids or, oh, you're a freaking tourist or whatever, just somebody making a disparaging comment. Generally not to your face, directly to you as you're standing in front of them. Generally it's as they're flying past because they're too scared to do it for real because they're keyboard warriors meets real life. So ultimately I'm essentially the same as you. It's, you deal with it. Like anything in life, people are going to have opinions. People may not like your hair. People may not like your eyes. People may not like you way too much or you're too skinny or whatever it is. People will be critical of you, and who the hell cares? Everyone has their own stuff. Everyone has their own things that they are dealing about. Unfortunately, some people are so sad and angry inside that it spills out. That they feel the only way that they can feel better about themselves is to attack other people and tear them down. You gotta let it go. It's gotta be water off a duck's back. You just have to go about living your life. And there's no, my son's had some of those experiences, in the, early teen years where he's having some difficulties on some things. And it's tough to watch as a father when you want to say, you just can't care. Trust me, it doesn't matter. And it's trying to force those thoughts into his brain. But it's a lesson we all have to kind of learn, and you just have to grow a bit of a thicker skin and suck it up. And one of the ways you can kind of deal with it is the mind shift of they're not attacking you because you're doing something wrong. They're attacking you because they feel bad about something in their own life. They're leaving negative comments online because they want to get a rise out of you, because they don't feel right and they have issues. Everyone's got stuff, dude. It is what it is. You just got to persevere, move on, and live your life on your own terms. Anything to add to that?
I think you covered it all there. When you were talking, I'm like, this fella's asked a question about wearing his kilt, and you start talking, I'm listening to everything, I'm taking everything on board, and I think, well, if you go to Glasgow on an international night when Scotland's playing, thousands and thousands of people turning up in kilts, CU Jimmy hats, whether you like them or not, Scotland football tops, so what's the difference? You know, we all want to turn up with our kilts on and all that. So what's the difference?
I'll tell you exactly what the difference is. The difference is when it comes to Scotland specifically. The difference is the gatekeepers. It's I'm allowed to do this because I'm Scottish, but you're not. It's I'm allowed to wear a CU Jimmy hat and take the piss, but you as a tourist are not, because you're making fun of my culture. Where if I make fun of it, it's fine. That's where the nuance is in this. It's who is doing it, but I don't think it's right. I think CU Jimmy hats are just kind of cheesy and dumb anyway. But there's a bit of comedy. I'll use air quotes for that.
But we're a nation that prides itself on making fun of itself. We have a lot of pride. We're lions, but we also love the banter. We love the crack, the banter. We love that. I miss the banter when I'm here in this country. I love going back home and getting it. I'll get tore apart quick. The second I'm back in Glasgow, the missiles will come. I'm just get tore apart. I love it. You miss it. So don't. If we're that Scottish people that love that kind of humour, our sense of humour is a wee bit brutal, you know, then come on, get off your high horse, behave yourself.
Okay, so then here, knowing that and thinking of that as well, because I've heard that, you know, Scots love to say that they have thick skins until they don't when they're online and keyboard warrioring. So I would say this: if you're over there and you're concerned about negative comments, then have a good comeback to you stupid tourist, or you know, that kind of thing. Have a good, funny, witty comeback to something like that. So if, you know, a random Scottish dude on the street says something to you, then just, you know, one of my favorites for America anyway is somebody says, you know, oh, you know, you're wearing a skirt, and then you just look at them and you say, yeah, it's a kilt, and I wear it because some guys need more room than others.
Aye.
And you look down at them and look back up and you say, apparently you don't. It's fine. So you just think of a witty jab comeback, just to have that in your arsenal. Now, it might get you in a fight, or it might get you a free beer.
It probably will get you to fight.
Yeah.
It probably will get you to fight.
But they're supposed to have thick skins.
They're meant to have. I'm always of the opinion if you're going to give it, you better be able to take it. And I've always thought the Scots are damn good at both sides of that. You know, we can give it proper, brutal, but we can also take it. You know, and I don't know where this high horse mentality comes from, where, oh, you're not wearing that right, or you've not got the right to wear that kilt. Well, who says you've got the right to wear that kilt? You know? It's
the gatekeeperiness, because they just don't want someone to. I'm going to close the door behind myself. I've talked about this before. If you want to be accurate, only Highlanders should wear kilts. So if you're in Inverness, fine.
Yeah.
If you're in Glasgow, no, you shouldn't have a kilt on. Or if you're in, you know, even lower than Glasgow, if you're in the borders, nope, you shouldn't. Like, so it's like, are you going to say that only Highlanders are allowed to wear a kilt? Only those, you know, in the cities and above Edinburgh and Glasgow? Are you saying the borders? Are you saying anyone in the UK? Are you saying anyone with Scottish heritage? Where do you draw that line so that you're inside the line? That's what people, when this thing happens, that's what people tend to do, is include themselves and exclude other people. Again, back to I want to feel good about myself. I want to be in the club, but I don't want everyone in the club.
You're so right there, you know. If you want to get technical about it, I can shut you right down like that, you know. Bang.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Indeed. All right, Eric.
A couple of nested questions. Albannach's been around for how long? Just give me a number of years.
20 years. 2005. You have the T-shirt. 2005 to 2025.
Albannach as
Albannach.
As Albannach, called Albannach, yeah. 2005.
Mm-hmm.
That was born.
Tell me about Clan Nadurma.
Clan Nadurma.
Yeah.
Clan Andrumma. That was how it all started.
That was a question from Kevin Donovan, by the way, who was wondering if you had ever collaborated with them.
I've never.
Yes, for the first 2 years of his career.
Yeah, that's how it all started, Kevin, and it might have all fallen apart in a nasty fashion, but that was years ago. You know, there's the lads are out there right now performing as Clan Andrumma, and I would say I'm friends. You know, I love bumping into them. We have good banter when we see each other, They have a lovely bagpiper, wee Granty. The Monroe bagpiper. He's a wonderful wee family man.
Ooh.
Oh, absolutely.
I didn't
love
know
him.
they had the Monroe bagpiper.
Yeah, oh, he's
I
a
know who he
fantastic
is.
wee chappie.
Yeah.
And always got a big smile and always full of the crack, you know. Scotty, Jamie, they're good lads, but that was a different chapter of my life. That was, 2001 to 2004 when I was in Clan Andrumma. There was myself. You had the bagpiper Donald McNeil, who is now the piper for Albannach. You had Jacqueline Holland on the drums and vocals. Mr. Joe Kilner, who's sadly not with us anymore, God rest his soul, and a wonderful character by the name of Brian Wilson, who we all called Two Bar. I could probably write a book on Two Bar. It's insanity at its best. A wonderful man. Has enhanced my life knowing him, When I think about Two Bar, I just laugh. But, it had its time for me. Clan Andrumma had its time. We were all in the same boat, going in the same direction, and then things just went south for us as a group. But hey, that's music, that's bands, And most bands do implode or disintegrate or whatever, because there's a lot of different musical direction in there as to which way you want to go with this. And that's basically what happened with Clan Andrumma. But nothing but good memories. I played music in Russia, South Korea, all over Europe as Clan Andrumma, and wow, what a passport to see the world, But yeah, we broke up, and in 2005, some of us just kept moving forward and formed Albannach, and it's been going strong ever since.
Yeah. And now, was Clan Andrumma after the band split? So sort of have a why. Did they stay? Were they still active the entire time, or did they?
They were. I mean, to give it the full story, Rocky, Clan Andrumma were someone before Clan Andrumma. They were the Braveheart crew. So again, we're going back to that wonderful time in Scottish history when Braveheart, exploded into our little country, But these boys started a band, which was basically to entertain themselves when they were on film sets. And there was a lot of boredom.
So they were in Braveheart, and then they just started monkeying around.
Aye, and they were good at it. They were good at monkeying around. A dear friend of mine, Shorus Wallace, he kind of put it all together, and you had Jacqueline Holland, who's with Albannach, and Robbie McFarlane, another wonderful character, Two Bar, and then Joe. So it's it started as the Braveheart crew, and that fell apart because of differences, and then Clan Andrumma was born, and that's when I came into it, and then that falls apart, and then Albannach was born, and luckily, however you want to call it, we've done 20 years as Albannach now. We managed to learn from the Braveheart crew and learn from Clan Andrumma the mistakes not to make, and how to keep Albannach rolling and keep its members together. And here we've got 20 years.
Yeah, that's one small anecdote. One thing that I try to do as a business owner is learn from. I'd rather learn from other people's mistakes than my own. So I've watched suppliers that we've had, good friends with, and how they run their business and where they screw things up, or where they tell me that they screwed something up. It's one of those, like one of our suppliers had his son in the business, and he ended up he ran his business with a tight fist. He kept everything very close to the chest, and he had to make all the decisions. He was the bottleneck, and his son came into the business, and then he ended up getting cancer. The owner got cancer, and he realized very quickly, like, oh, I have to teach everyone how to do everything so that I can, because I'm eventually not going to be here.
Yep.
So it's learning things like that of, okay, I need to divest the power. I can't do everything myself every day, all day. And that was one of the light switch moments for me as a business owner, was realizing that I need to give other people some autonomy to be able to make decisions so I don't have to be involved in every single decision. We talked about that earlier today.
We did.
Yeah.
We were talking about that. And I think when that's introduced, the dark side of that, when that's introduced into bands, I think it's very cancerous when the lead singer, it's my band and you must do what I'm doing, or I think that's the wrong thing. And I would like to say that I was watching how the Braveheart crew was operating, certainly watching how Clan Andromeda was operating and how one person had the reins and no one else had a say musically or financially. Right. And I thought, well, I'm not going to go down that route with Albannach. This is a joint thing, I want to hear what you've got to say,
It's a marriage of 4 or 5 people.
And that's how we made it work, for 20 years.
Awesome. All right, Eric.
So speaking of the history of the band, can you tell us about the tartan? There was a specific Albannach tartan, right?
I've recounted the story many times. So I'm going to I'll let you take the lead on your memory of
how it all happened, how the Albannach tartan came about. Well, now we're talking about Clan Andromeda, so we'll just rewind all the way back. This is how it all happened. They had their own Clan Andromeda tartan, which I wore, and then when we had the big rift, the big fallout, I, out of decency and respect, contacted our handler at Ardbeg Whiskey, a wonderful man called Hamish Torrey. Proper gent, proper Morningside Edinburgh gent, and I just loved being in his company. And I said, look, there's been a fallout in the band and whatnot, but I've got to go and play some shows because there's work coming in and they don't want to do it, but I'm doing it. Do you have a problem with me wearing the Ardbeg tartan? And he said, yeah, I would prefer you don't. So that put me on the spot right away.
And this is the Ardbeg tartan you have on.
This is Ardbeg tartan, but it's not the one.
Not the one you had.
That Clan Andromeda
got it.
Was wearing back then. I do believe I've got some of it left in the house. This is a different one. We got these ones for going and doing Whiskey Live events.
Right.
And a wonderful time. And it just put me on the spot. And if I was to meet Hamish now, I'd say thank you. Because it made me think outside the box. All right. I've got to go and get a tartan. I've got to think for myself. I ended up going up to Inverary, right up there where the big castle is, the Duke of Argyll. And I went to a wee shop called Longshanks. Now, if you're familiar with Inverary, there's the famous jail. Everyone goes to the jail. And then just to the side of that, there was this wee tartan shop, wee kilt maker. I wouldn't say tartan shop, he was a kilt maker like you. Okay. And I went in there and explained my situation, and he said, well, I could make you this or I could make you that. He says, but I just had a pipe band back out of taking a bail. You know that story, don't you? I'll sell you this for a song. You'd be helping me out. So we walked down the street a bit, and right on the side of Lochfine, beautiful. And we go into this wee kind of, like, it looked like a byre, a barn or something, And here he had this big bale of Finn Lagan tartan, and I liked the look of it. It was very rustic in colour, and I thought, well, that's what we're all about, but nothing too flashy and sharp. That'll do me. And the price was great because he was wanting out a wee hole, and that was how we got that tartan. Fast forward like 2 years, and we've been on the road in America. These plaids we were wearing took a battering, they're falling apart, they stink, So I go back up to Redshanks, and I go in, and here the wee fella's died. Oof. The wee fella's away, but his family are still running the shop. It's still there to this day. And I said, hello, I says, blah, 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 Jamesie, band Albannach. I need a new bale of the Finn Lagan. And she just came out with this astronomical price, and I says, wait a minute, I says, a couple of years ago it was this. She went, no, that's the price now. If you want another bale of it, you better take another mortgage out. I was like, oh no, and I went away I think we might have had some heated discussion. I might have had to leave Inverary in a hurry, before the locals mobbed me. And it wasn't long after that I met you. And
Yep.
I told you that very story, and you said, what are you talking about, James? You should have your own. You should have an Albannach tartan. And then it wasn't up until that point I was like, I do believe I want an Albannach tartan. I should have an Albannach tartan. But I know nothing about Albannach tartan or how to make one, And you schooled me on how to do it all, and that's basically how it came about. It was a big learning process for me because obviously I am Scottish and everything, and there's kilts everywhere, and you can go to the football games and blah blah blah, but you have no idea what goes into making a tartan, producing a tartan, designing a tartan, cutting through all the red tape, getting the green light on that tartan. And that's why it's very handy knowing someone like you, So
I do my best for you, sir.
I brought that project to you, and then you ran with it and said, what's your ideas? And I gave you the ideas, and you said, leave it with me. And then an email came in or something, and you had designed this tartan, and I was like, wow. And you were right there with all my ideas. You just took it all out of my head, cleaned it up a lot. Put a little bit of professional polish on it.
I wish we still had the original one that you mocked up and gave to me.
Maybe I don't want to see that.
Oh, you probably don't. You probably don't. It was one of those where I was just like, oh, let me help you. Please let me help you. And you're like, yeah. I'm glad you did. I like working with you, and I like engaging in these kind of things, and whether it's you or somebody else and helping people design tartans. I love that process of it. So in taking what's in someone else's brain and poof.
Aye, that's a good way of putting it. From a musical standpoint, so it's like working with a good music producer. You can go into the studio and say, I've got this idea for a tune, for a song, and I want to put all this in the background and have all these effects, and I want it to feel like this. That's why you work with certain producers, because they can take it all out of your head, have you play the instruments, and then they can bring your idea to life. And it was the same thing. I had this idea, pretty messy idea, but you said, no, I get you, I understand you, and this is how we're going to do it. Yeah. And then I seen it, but I had no idea what goes into it. I had no idea all the red tape that's out there, and how you actually do need, to get in line with someone like Rocky here and get in line with USA Kilts, because you're not going to be able to do it yourself. And who are you kidding?
That's very kind of you. Thank you. I will say there's not as much red tape as you may actually think. As far as the design process, there's several tartan design programs online. We have one on our website, but you can, it's just a matter of like playing around with the colors, and you have to have a bit of an eye for it, a bit of penchant, if you will. But the red tape, so to speak, comes in if you're going to get it registered, making sure that it's an original design, making sure that you have the right to call it what you're calling it. In your case, Albannach is the name of your band, so yes, you have the right to call it that. And then there's the hurdles of making sure, I won't say hurdles or red tape, I'll say it's potholes in the road of knowing like what size to make the set, or an acceptable size to make the set. And knowing the mill, knowing which stripe you want to center, where you want the edge of the fabric to fall. You have to understand. Enough to be dangerous, but you need to know a little bit more.
You see, just that there leaves us normal people in the dust, doesn't it?
I'm the abnormal person here.
You start to go, no, where the fabrics to fall, the set, the size of this and that. No, please, Rocky, go ahead. You do that.
Yes. So it's ultimately find someone, whether it's us or somebody else, find someone that you trust who has an artistic eye for these kind of things, and who has a relationship to the mills, or knows how to do this, and then have them help you on the journey. And then in that way, you'll probably end up with a better project, or a better product, or a better tartan than just, 4 equidistant stripes this way and this way and say, there you go, that's it, call it done.
I like what you just said there, that this tartan is going to be and was going to be the tartan that we were wearing on stage. So this was going to represent us. This was going to be our brand, you know, and I'll still see Albannach fans, Nach Nation as we like to call them, turning up and being out front of stage wearing the same tartan as us. So I don't want it to look like, you know,
like a dog's dinner.
Like a dog's dinner, aye. I don't want it to look like a dog's dinner. You know, so did I try and do all these things? Again, we're going back to that conversation of, you know, when you're in charge of the company or the band, you know, you try to do everything yourself, but no, you're better delegating, you know, you're better. And for me in Albannach, and the birthing of the Albannach tartan was it's just far more easy process, smarter process, because I want to look smart. This represents me. Was going to the professional.
You said birthing of a tartan, and I'm now picturing myself in stirrups.
That's nice, isn't it?
No.
Yeah. And every listener has got that in their head now as well.
I apologize to everyone out there. You need to erase that. I need like the Will Smith Men in Black pen thing to erase that out of everyone's memories.
Sorry.
Stirrups.
In my kilt in stirrups.
You've already got the kilt on. Easy access, fella.
Okay, so I'm going to deliver us from this fresh hell, and why don't we show the? Why don't we show?
Do you guys want to actually talk about the tartan itself?
Let's bring the tartan up. There it is. Okay.
That question had been from Susan Stevenson, by the way. Thank you, Susan. And Charlie McKinney specifically asked us what made you choose the colors in the tartan. Yeah. What does it mean? Tell us about it.
What does it mean? Well, the great questions. The whole vibe, the whole feel of Albannach is pride and passion. You know, we're selling Scotland here, you know, very, very proud of it. It's warrior music. That's what I believe it is, you know. So I wanted something that was going to represent that passion and that pride in this wonderful little patch of land that we call home, you know, Mother Scotland. So in my head, I had the colours, you know, I had the greens for, obviously, if you've ever been to Scotland, you know, it's very green country, you know. I had the blues for the rivers and the lochs. I was kind of going down these avenues. Originally I did prefer the more rustic colours. Think of autumn. That's where I was going at first. But then I started saying, well, what are the colours of my country, you know, these beautiful greens and the blues. And I remember taking that to yourself, and I thought, you know, we're patriotic and people have fought for this country and people have died for this country in the name of freedom, you know. And that's when you came in to, you know, in your own with your expertise, and you started saying, yes, the red line for the blood that has been spilt in the name of freedom. A black line of remembrance. And I remember you saying all this to me, and I was just like, oh, yes. Keep talking, give me more, you know. I just felt the blood surging through me, you know. We're off to war. And, you know, that's how it came about. That's how the Albannach tartan came about. To what you're seeing now on the screen. Would it have been my first choice for a tribal band to wear? No. But when you look at the meaning of everything, all the magic that's in that cloth there, the whites and the blues for the saltire, our wonderful flag, like I was saying there, that red line for all the blood that was spilt in the name of freedom for our country, and we're still fighting for it now. The black line of remembrance, and then those purples for the heather, if you've ever been there in August. And that's what all that represents. And when I understood that from sitting down and talking with Rocky here, I was sold. And I'm very, very proud of that.
So are we. I'm thrilled and honored that you had us as part of the project, and it's one that I'm very proud of still to this day to be part of. So that's about it. It's a heartfelt thing. I won't say I'm getting choked up, but it's nice to hear your passion for the tartan still to this day.
Oh, aye.
I feel good knowing that I had something to do with.
Well, how many people in my country, how many people from Scotland can walk about and say they're
design their own tartan?
designed their own part designer of a tartan, whatever, design their own tartan, have a tartan associated with them?
Yeah.
There's not many. But, you know, when Albannach's gone, long dead and buried, I'll still have a big patch of this tartan on my wall, wherever I call home, wherever it be, I'll still have that tartan hanging in the wall somewhere as a reminder to I did that, you know. So it's a great pride attached to that.
Excellent.
Great pride.
Mr. Eric.
Slight detour. You're a motorcycle guy, right?
Why?
Well, we had...
Triumph motorcycles, right?
Oh,
Is it Triumph?
it's an affliction.
Yeah, okay.
Classic, and it's not just any.
I am More Than My ET had asked us earlier, what is your top motorcycle that you've ever had? And we also had a question from Jeff Plavier. Have you ever gone cycling in a kilt?
Aye. I just did the DGR, the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride, and the whole thing about it is you're raising awareness for prostate cancer and men's mental health, but you've to do it dapper. So you want to get your tweeds on and all that carry on, and a lot of people do turn up in tweed suits and whatnot, and they look fantastic, you know. But me being who I am, being, you know, displaced Scotsman kicking about America, you know, I said, well, I've got to wear the kilt, haven't I, you know? So, in fact, it was someone else, it was my best friend, Big Mark Reed. He said to me, well, you better wear a kilt. And I went, oh, you know, that's it, I've got to wear the kilt now, you know? And I remember doing it first, and you know, you're on the motorbike, you know, and the wind does catch it, so you've got to sit your sporran just right, you know, and it tends to blow away up here at the
tuck
side.
it under?
You have to try everything, but the wind catches it, and then, you know, you're showing your whole thigh and part of your arse cheek, you know. It's quite the sight and education for anyone that's standing on the side of the road waving as you all go by, you know. They're looking at all these motorcycles, and then an arse cheek goes by, you know. But it's a wonderful feeling, and I love to represent the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride in my kilt. I do believe I've seen a lot of social media out there for the DGR, and I haven't seen anyone else riding in their kilt. So
No
I'd
one,
like to think
no one
I'm
else
the
crazy
only
enough
one.
to do it.
Maybe, aye.
Now, aren't you concerned? Apparently not. But wouldn't you be concerned about the fabric getting caught in the wheel in the back, or getting caught on a nub on the tire or something, and just kind of grabbing at it and ripping it?
It doesn't tend to do that. It tends to, you know, you're sitting on a good bit of it. You know, obviously you're
Right.
It's like you're sitting on a normal seat. You want to keep the back of your kilt under your backside, you know. So it just tends to be these side bits that'll flap about, and they're out the way of like a chain or anything like that. So you're all right there. But again, you don't want to let that in your head, you know. Don't let any of that in your head, or you're going to play with your ride, you know. Just get on it with confidence. You know,
So you're not in the you know, dress for the slide, not the ride mentality.
I do when I'm normally out riding.
Right.
You know, I always wear jeans, usually a set of Kevlar jeans kicking about. I've always got a top on, always got a jacket on, always wear gloves, always wear a helmet. And I know there's certain states in this country where you don't need to. You know, New Hampshire, you know, that state motto, live free or die, they don't wear helmets, you know, live free or die.
I don't think Pennsylvania is either. I think you can go helmetless in PA.
I'm of the opinion you only get one of these, you know. I've got two of these. I've got two legs. A stretch at a pinch, you can afford to lose one and still operate, you know. But if you lose that, it's game's a bogey. It's over, isn't it? You know. So I say wear the helmet. And if you wear one of those half-face helmets, I think you look cool anyway. So you're all right, you know. But DGR day, I'm up for a challenge. I don't go out there riding my motorcycle with a mentality that I'm going to come off. And I think that's a key when you're riding motorcycles. Don't think there's disaster round every corner, because you're going to welcome it, you know.
Right.
Keep it at the back of your head, you know.
Ronald? Eric?
We are at the top of the hour here. I'd
We'll
like
do
to
one more.
at least do one. I'm going to go a little more serious here. But we're all in the business of history and preserving culture and heritage. So we had a question from Alan Anderson asking, how much, Jamesie, do you think the average Scotsman knows about their own history or their family heritage? Are they as passionate over there about it as we tend to get over here?
Yeah, you're in a very unique position. You've grown up over there, you live over there, but you've seen, the most passionate people in the U.S. at festivals.
Oh, that's wild.
So, and your fans are, I'm sure, right at the top of that list. So, compare apples and apples if you could, or are they truly apples and oranges?
Coca-Cola and Iron Brew.
Yeah.
People will travel great distances in this country to come and support their Highland Games or their Celtic Festival. I am aware of that, and I have much respect to that. They are very passionate about it here, much to the ire of some people back home, and I don't understand that myself. I think it's wonderful that people who have Scottish blood or Celtic blood running through their veins want to come out and celebrate it. I think it's wonderful. Now, to address the first part of that question, I'm 52 years old this year. Can't believe it. I made it.
You're an old man now.
Who would have thought? Eh?
Arthritis is taking over.
Really? I'm an old man now. This guy are going to have words later.
Yeah. I got,
When
you
I
got
was
5
gr-
years on me. You're not that much older than me.
Am I older than you?
Yeah.
No, I am not.
Yeah, I'm 47.
Gentlemen, stay focused.
Eric, no. He's no older than me.
1977.
I'm older than him.
He's
1977, yeah.
still
He's
Baron.
confusing me. When I was growing up and at school, you went to something called academy. You went to your primary school, and I don't know how to equate that to your grades and all that carry on in this school. And then you went to academy. You never got taught Scottish history. So people in my age bracket would have had to learn about Scottish history later on in life and become interested, educated, enthralled, because it certainly wasn't happening when you were 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. The only thing that you could really relate to in Scottish history is when the national team were playing football at the weekend, when Scotland were playing, another country, then everyone became Scottish for the day, everyone became uber Scottish, But you never get taught about it at school, and I have my own theories on that, and I don't really want to wander down the political road to madness here, but, since, and this is the third time I'm referencing that movie Braveheart.
I was just about to equate it. You stole my angle to the answer, but go ahead.
That movie came out, whether it's right or wrong, and we all know our history, so we know it's wrong, most of it. But what it did for Scotland, your money can't buy, that publicity.
Yeah.
Scotland exploded, and I said it earlier. Overnight, everyone and their granny wanted to be Scottish. Overnight.
Yep.
People were going back to the cinema to watch it on repeat, No one had ever shouted freedom before. Yet here we've got it getting shouted at the top of the mountains, out of car windows, in the boozer on a Saturday night before somebody get a glass in their face, freedom, bang, I'll get that stitched.
He will never take our
It did wonders, but what that movie did was say, well, who is this William Wallace? Who is this Robert the Bruce? What's this Stirling Bridge and Bannockburn and all that stuff? I'm going to go to the library, because again, it's before the internet. 1995, the internet was for the wealthy people. You didn't have it piped into every house. You certainly didn't have a phone in your hand. I'm going to fact check him, the tour guide, that's what happens to me all the time. So you had to go and read books or tap into, the mind of an older guy, like an old fella, who could give you some information that he'd learned, So suddenly people started becoming educated in Scottish history. That's what I would say about my home country. I think there is certainly a lot of people now in Scotland who are super educated in this time of the internet. And maybe through the internet, they have gone on to explore old books and whatnot. And I think, if you start getting into that Victorian time frame of reading books, Scottish history, and like what it was like to walk around Scotland, to live in Scotland, I think that's where all the gold is, right there. If you pick up those books, that's where the gold is. Mm-hmm. So what I'm trying to say in a roundabout way is, before the movie, I really don't think most people, your average Scotsman, was too into or too concerned about their history, to be honest with you. I don't think so, But now, yeah, post-Braveheart, post-Outlander, all that, yeah, we want to be aware of it. We want to be educated on it. We want to know about it. It's not a pride thing, But
yeah, that was literally the thing I was putting together, and I want to watch this back and see if I can see my light bulb go off.
When Scotland were playing, another country, then everyone became Scottish for the day.
That was the thing I was putting together as you were starting to talk before you got to the Braveheart thing. Was if you didn't learn about your own history, your own culture, different from English culture, British culture, in schools, in elementary school, in lower grades, even up to high school, and it wasn't a big thing in your family because maybe your parents didn't know it, and your family weren't history nerd type people. You're starved for that. You're starved for that connection in this, and I'll say it in the same way that Americans tend to be starved for that connection. That's why we want to go to Celtic festivals. That's why we want to connect with our own family heritage and our own family histories and where our families came from over in Europe, over in Africa, wherever they came from. It's a part of who you are. And this is just in one country, in Scotland. If what you're saying, jives with what I'm thinking, it's you were all starved for it because it wasn't taught to you. It wasn't given to you. You just didn't know you were missing it. You felt something missing. And then Braveheart just lit a fuse. And that was one of those things where it was like, oh, we are cool. Oh, this is interesting. Is this really what happened? And then you start digging into it. And it just ignited a sense of pride. I was only, 18 or whatever it was in 1995. But I remember in the U.S., how big Braveheart was and how it came out and everyone wanted to be Scottish and they had the token Irish guy in the movie. So everyone loved the Irish guy too. But it's one of those things where it was a powder keg going off and a powder keg of pride and of self-exploration and of heritage exploration. And it's just, in America, it has happened the entire time because we've been missing it the whole time. In Scotland, you just didn't know. You
didn't know you just weren't taught it. And I can address this question from the actual writer of Braveheart's point of view, a man called Randall Wallace, beautiful human being. Got to spend a lot of time with him. Ended up having lunch with him out in LA in his office, and when you go in his office, it's beautiful, kind of similar to this setup right here, But the original Wallace sword from the movie is on the wall and all that stuff. Wonderful, You walk in there like a kid in a candy store, And the whole reason the book Braveheart came about was because he came over, obviously second name Wallace, he came over, I want to explore my bloodline, and he was horrified at the lack of public knowledge about this great guardian of Scotland, William Wallace. He was horrified, and he said, I'm going to go away and I'm going to write a book and educate people about this wonderful person that did so much for Scottish history, And that's, coming from the man that wrote the book. He came over and he was horrified. Nobody knew anything about William Wallace. Yeah. Because the schools weren't teaching it.
That's what you need. You need more culture. You need more history. And if you don't teach it, it goes away and it dies. So you need people to bring it back.
Education at the grassroots, my friends.
Exactly. All right. I want to thank you, sir, for finally making it out and joining me on the show. I appreciate it very much.
Been a pleasure.
Very good. Boys and girls, one quick mini announcement. Be sure to check out our upcoming mini documentary, but half-hour long movie, featuring, in part, this guy right here. It's coming out on July 9th. We're going to be premiering it over on YouTube. It's going to be called Celtic Heart, Irish and Scottish Festivals in America. Coming out July 9th. Jamesie's in that as well. A lot of really, really cool, really heartfelt, emotional interviews with a lot of people. So be sure to check that out. All right, boys and girls, thank you for joining us. Until next time, Slanjava.
Slanjava.
Thanks for joining us for our wee blether with our buddy Jamesie from the band Albannach. Remember, if you want to hear Albannach, check out albannachmusic.com. And if you like clips of little bits of Celtic culture, Kilts related stuff here on YouTube, go check out our other channel, the Kilts and Culture Clips channel.